Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Justin the Food Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host. That's Bizzarro. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. You can find us on social media at Instagram and Facebook at Justin and the Food Entrepreneurs, and you can also find me personally on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook at Justin Bizzarro. So, I have back with us today Jake Jean from Tattered Beans, which we're actually going to talk about Tattered Lives Farms today, but I wanted to reintroduce you. Jake, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm great, Justin. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I loved our last episode. It was supposed to be a two-parter, but I couldn't. I had computer issues, and it ended up being a one whole long series. I think it was like an hour and 45 minutes or something. It was an epic long episode.
It was.
So, pretty cool. So, it's been about a year and a half since we last talked, I think, and we've changed our format on the podcast a little bit. We now record release right away, so there's not the stress in me trying to keep track of a schedule. That's good. But in the meantime, I mean, what have you been up to? How's Tattered Beans doing? And sort of tell us about your new ventures and stuff that you have going on.
So Tattered Beans, as you know, was the concept of where we had veterans and first responders sign up, make a profile, and then sell coffee under their profile. And then they made a profit off of that. And I was, happy to be able to say that we gave tens and tens of thousands of dollars back to veterans and first responders who participated in that. And then we know the pandemic, COVID came, and unfortunately, we were one of the ones that, scaled back. And so shipping became really hard. So from some advice from other people, I would say that were smarter than us from the health field, just said, even with cleaning off the bags and, stuff like that, you just don't want to take the chance. So we haven't opened too much back up in the sales, and mostly because we're moving everything, all of our production and shipping to the new facility, which you described as Tattered Lives Farm. So we're excited about that new project.
And where's that located?
So it's 56 acres in Maple Hill, North Carolina, which is about 15 minutes from Camp Lejeune and about 20 minutes from the coast, like Surf City, Topsail Beach, North Carolina.
Awesome. And, I mean, so tell me, obviously it shares the name with Tattered Beans, so why the sharing of the name, and sort of what is the vision that you've built there, and how did you acquire this farm, I guess, would be my first question, is where did this farm come from?
So it was probably about 6 months into Tattered Beans. And, when you talk to that many veterans and first responders and you hear all their stories and the traumatic situations that they have been in, and then you start asking, like, well, how do you deal with this stuff? And a lot of them, unfortunately, deal with it with opioids or, different scenarios. And what we've noticed is how many you service dogs and how that helps. And so I've always wanted to be a cowboy and been around, my wife's from Montana and been around farms and cattle ranches and things. So I just thought, how can we incorporate saving some animals from high production farms to slaughter, and how we can get them to a farm to work in a therapeutic format with people that have gone through some type of trauma. And they don't have, in the concept is grown from just first responders and military to, all walks of life who have gone through trauma. And so that's the exciting part, because when anyone drives by a farm and they see the cows standing there, they get a smile on their face. Or you're, like you said, you're on TikTok and you're watching different videos and you see, the goats and, you laugh.
Yeah.
And so we know that they can bring an amazing therapeutic style of rehabilitation to them. So there you go. Tattered Lives Farm was launched.
And I mean, it's true, right? It's why there's therapy dogs. I mean, there's this thing that animals do to human beings that soften us, that there's a connection there, almost an unsaid, if you will, bond that happens, because obviously you don't speak, but they feel your energy and your need, and you feel theirs. And then the crazy part is you build a mutual trust that's like nothing else. And animals do that. So I grew up on a horse farm, and on the horse farm was a group. They were called Circle of Hope. Actually, they're still on my parents' farm, on Pleasant View Farm in Maryland. And Circle of Hope, they did therapeutic riding, not only for vets and up at the hospital there in Washington. I can't remember the name of it. It just went blank. But the military hospital up there right outside Washington, D.C., a lot of therapeutic riding and special needs and stuff. So I'm familiar with the business. I mean, we had a working horse farm, and that was one of the people that were there and used the facilities and had lessons and stuff. So I see the value in it, particularly for vets, in just post-traumatic stress, rehabilitation, stuff like that, and how the animals help with that and start to make someone active and give purpose. So, exactly. I mean, let's really dive into this. I mean, how has this gone about? How do you manage it? Where do you find the animals from? I mean, how many people do you have on the farm? I mean, let's really dive in, and where can they find you on social media, I guess, first?
So, they can find us at, on Facebook. They can find us on Instagram. We're going to be making a TikTok and YouTube. The great thing about Tattered Lives Farm is that it's literally brand new. We're in the process of raising enough donations to get it built, and we are working with different high production farms in North Carolina, Virginia, and Tennessee, that are holding animals, yep. So that we can then transfer them over to the farm when it's built and ready. We're in the process of getting the land transferred and starting to clear the roads back to the 56 acres, here hopefully by mid-September. We're looking for a completion date of sometime in December. In North Carolina, we can, build easier comparative to other parts of the country. But the great thing is that each week we're going to bring 3 families into the farm. We will have 3 areas within the farm for each family to stay. Each family will have gone through some sort of the same type of trauma. And then we will have different games and family building activities, not only with the animals, but within themselves, and just the ability for them to get away and be on a farm and see how a farm works and get to play with the animals and work with them. Because, I mean, if you think about it, now you grew up on a horse farm, so you were always around it. But how often did you just have a random person, come up to be like, oh, hey, can I, be around the horses? And so, unfortunately, you don't have that capability. But with Tattered Lives Farm, we want the ability that, for people that are in the area to just stop in, and maybe they just want to sit in the field and read a book and watch the animals, and give people that ability to just come in and decompress from their daily life and utilize the farm for that.
It's a really cool thing that you guys are doing. So, you mentioned moving production. Is that in terms of Tattered Beans, and you're moving it down there as well? Is that something that'll take place there?
Correct. So we've always been a co-packer for Tattered Beans. So the company that packages and roasts the beans is still located in central Pennsylvania. And then what we'll be doing is shipping down to the farm, and then shipping out from there
for the
will be
side,
our biggest goal when Tattered Beans comes back online.
That's pretty cool. So, I mean, what's your expectation upon launching? I mean, you mentioned doing roads and you have work to do. I mean, how did you choose the location, I guess? Why North Carolina? Why there?
Well, that's where I reside.
Okay.
So that was the big thing. But as I said, my day job is real estate development. And so we had my two partners and I, Steve Fantetti and AJ Severio, had acquired 156 acres, and I had approached them as partners and said, listen, they knew I had Tattered Beans because Steve is a partner in that. And he's an attorney from Florida. And I had said, because he just loved the concept behind it. And I said, I want to do something special on 56 acres of this land that we had acquired. And so we took a chunk off of it and we donated it to the nonprofit.
That's awesome. And then obviously what's going to happen to the other 100 acres around it, so you can make sure that Tattered Beans is a safe surrounding, I guess, as well. So that's kind of a cool concept.
Exactly. Yep. So we control the other 100 acres, which will be maintained as a housing development.
That's awesome. Okay, so how do you? Obviously, you're in construction and you're building houses. Is it part of that you have this crew that can assist you in getting this farm up and running? I mean, does it have fence? What did you get? Was the farm existing in the buildings and stuff, or is this something you had to build from scratch? Or what work have you guys had to do to get this up and running?
Justin, this thing is from scratch, from a piece of paper, a concept, to actual raw land. I mean, the only thing that's there is sand, grass, and some trees.
Wow.
So this is the good thing of having the construction company and having everything in-house is, we are able to design a farmhouse that can accommodate a family that will run the farm daily, so all their bedrooms and their house and all that, and then accommodate extra families that maybe want to come in, or if we have celebrities that want to come in to do events, they have places to stay. So all that is all brand new construction that we'll use our construction company to build. And then the hardest thing, especially now, is the fundraising part. We obviously, as partners, are kicking in a lot of our own capital to get things started. But, we're looking at a first-year operating budget of over $1 million.
Yeah, crazy. So
it's the, and that will utilize, for roads to be put in and different outbuildings to be built and farm equipment to be purchased and the main house to be built, and then what supplies would be needed to operate for 2 years, and then marketing and all that. I think what people don't understand is, even though you're a nonprofit 501c3, at the end of the day, you're still a business. You have to market, you have to raise money. Yeah. Raising money is like, trying to, sell coffee at a cafe. Like, you have to get customers in. You have to have something that interests them. And so we'll be launching a couple things that other people have never thought of from a marketing standpoint. So that's going to be super exciting. That we'll announce here probably within the next couple of weeks. That will be an online format, which will not only showcase animals, but, the therapeutic side of things. And, because I don't want to be that fundraiser that literally just shows nothing but horror and sadness. And, we want to be able to showcase the happiness that comes out of what we're trying to do. There's sadness on the one side that's bringing the families here, but when they're leaving, we want them to realize that they were given X amount of time to just take a deep breath and let, a smile be put on their face. Because animals, they don't understand the trauma. They've gone through their own trauma of, living in a high production farm and things like that, but they don't understand the other trauma. So when they're kicking a ball, to them, and sitting there watching that and seeing the happiness that's going through that animal can then bring joy to the family themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. It also shows that there's always hope on the other side, no matter where you are. And I think the second chance for the animal also demonstrates the second chance for anyone who's looking for one. which is
Exactly.
pretty cool.
Great
Um,
analogy.
so, I mean, is it only going to be animal based? I mean, do you guys have plans to do, maybe some vegetable and farming? I mean, what's the long term vision here in terms of this? Is this something you guys think may be replicable in other communities or other developments you guys do? I mean, I'm just curious because it seems like a good model and a way to ensure wholesomeness within your communities that you're creating in a weird kind of way.
So near the actual property itself, we do plan to be able to do some agricultural farming on there. Maybe a 10, 15 acre plot that they have the capability to grow some of their own produce or be more self-sufficient for the actual animals themselves. Absolutely. Whether it's in growing plants that can be thrown in the trough for the pigs, or areas that can be cultivated for the cows. That's exactly what we're looking to do. Now, as far as duplicating it, we would love to. We've had a couple people reach out that have land in other states that love the concept. So we will eventually have multiple locations, but I have to show them a proof of concept first at this location so that we can mimic it in other areas.
Understandably, and that makes complete sense. And I'm very interested to see how all of this plays out and how the plan comes together and what that plan looks like actually executed. So that's cool. I gotta imagine there's probably you're dividing up fences and pastures and building a barn and different locations, maybe little cabins for people to stay in. I'm not sure.
Exactly.
But it's pretty cool. And I just spent a lot of time in Yellowstone. So a couple weeks ago with family, we RV'd it throughout Yellowstone. CruiseAmerica.com. Anyone can rent one. It was a great experience. Kind of cool. But so I get this feeling of the ranch that you were talking about and the farm and the free feeling of openness, and then the animals to go along with it. It's a pretty cool concept. So
there's just so much that can be done. And a lot of farms obviously do things because they have to, have corn mazes or pumpkin patches to pick and things like that, because they have to actually have money to operate the farm. It's a little different for us from a nonprofit because, all those donations go right back into the nonprofit portion of things and utilized to keep us running much like a regular farm. But we'll do a lot like a regular farm does. The only difference is that ours is going to be open to the public. Ours is going to be, obviously much more friendly to come and pet because, we're not worried about milking the cows for production. We're not, feeding growth hormone to animals because we need to make them as big as we possibly can to, gross our, to, meet the bottom line. And, so our thought process is, having the animals live out the rest of their life is, the best they can. The coolest part, Justin, that we're looking to really launch is everybody wants a little piece of land, and people that we've talked to, want to have their own little farm, whether it's 3 to 5 acres, and you're in the food industry and you might have heard, sort of the same thing. And so we want to be able to take our animals and find them forever homes. So, to send a cow, up to Virginia, for them to, live with a new family and that's their forever home.
It's a really cool concept because then but we are seeing this. I mean, let's be real about what's going on during COVID, and we're going to see a lot more people farming in their backyard or quote unquote
Absolutely.
having gardens in their backyard. We're going to see people spreading out a little bit more, deurbanizing. So I like the concept for sure. And we're going to see a lot more people getting food at home or growing their own food or grocery store deliveries. I mean, we're seeing a lot of changes here. I mean, our business is completely different now than what it looked like 3 months ago, let alone 6 months ago. Our core business is the same, but how we go about that business is just completely different now. And that's exactly what you're talking about here is here's families are what I'll call deurbanizing and spreading out and more land, and I think it's a perfect opportunity to add that dynamic, because there are a lot of people out there that aren't going to, they want the farm animals and aren't necessarily there to slaughter them, but will have a garden and grow their own fruits and vegetables and stuff, but want the farm animals also to have around. So I think it's cool, you know.
It gives them that, you know, feeling of joy. At least, again, I can't speak for everyone, but for the families that we have talked to, even the farms that we are getting the animals from that are holding them for us, you know, even their own employees, they don't get their cattle or horses from them. They, you know, got them from other places, but that's exactly what they thought of, is just that little tiny home farm. You know, they have a couple chickens, they've got a rooster, they have a couple cows, you know, so it's amazing to hear these stories, to know that our concept is alive and well and working. And so now we just have to get it to the final leg to actually be able to produce the animals at our farm, to be able to find them forever homes around the country.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, and one of the things to that point is, really smaller farms, they have to be little multicultural, or, you know, they're cultural in terms of cows and pigs and chickens, and it's just the way it is. Why? It's just, you know, you need chickens for eggs, you need the cows for the milk, you need, you know, maybe even goats or sheep for other stuff. Once you really start figuring out the opportunities there, sheep milk is good also, as well as goat milk for various things. But it's like, once you start seeing that, and you don't ever have to slaughter the animal or the little chickens and the eggs, and, you know, it's a pretty cool concept, right? You can get pretty sustainable on your own with very little effort, and teaching yourself how to grow fruits and vegetables properly, and making sure you have the right soil. But you're right, it's a big opportunity there, and an avenue by which to do the right thing.
It really is, and you see in some housing developments even now that have the space to be able to do that. You know, they allow the families in their covenants to have different smaller farm animals based on the amount of acreage that you have, you know, on your plot, which I think is absolutely cool. Because I'm a land developer, that's a great concept to give the families to be able to do.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing a lot of that in Colorado. Colorado, I mean, historically has allowed like 2.5 to 5 acre little farm plots with, and then, you know, dictated the amount of animals you could put on there, or multiple animals, I should say, in combination. But I agree with you. I think the trend is coming back, and I think it's a really exciting thing. And it's kind of cool to see the bigger lot, little mini farms next to each other concept come back with the animals on it, you know, and people spread out a little bit. It's what we do history-wise, you know, and we need to find hope in new news amongst COVID. But there is things out there. You know, that's the thing that I try to do on this podcast. This is hope, guys. Like, everyone's figuring out how to move forward. It doesn't mean we need to stop. It just means we need to do it differently.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
So
that's a good point.
You know, it just looks different. It's just, I always say, man, I'm a you know, true believer in God, obviously, if anyone listens to the podcast, but he, you know, it's usually he gives me what I want. It's just usually not in the way that I want it, or, you know, it's the way that I need it. You know, so it's that thing, you know, and that's true with what's going on here is with COVID. It just looks different. It may not be the way we want it, but it's the way we need it to grow and to expand our businesses, and, you know, and hey, no matter which way we look at it, it's still survival of the fittest when it comes to this stuff and free economies, right? You know, who figures out how to survive this and gains the most opportunity from this is going to come out the other side the best, you know? So
exactly. It's even taught us too is, you know, we got a lot of places got complacent in certain things, and even with like fundraising, you know, there's good and bad that's coming out of the COVID and it's taught us that, we might not always be able to do in-person fundraising events, but we could still do other things from a marketing standpoint that other people aren't doing to be able to help the overall cause. And that's what we've really had to think outside the box instead of just having, a huge gathering for, a particular, maybe a country singer coming down to sing. You have to think outside the box now even more.
Yeah, I mean, it's so true. And like, we do a lot of events and training events and stuff like that. And the way we're having to think about it and go back and redo it, even within the food service connections and some of our subsidiaries, we're just having to, we're having to adjust. There's a lot of opportunity and stuff going online. I think people have gotten very used to not having to deal with things in person. We're creating habits here every day of people getting more and more comfortable about not moving very much. And so it's kind of interesting stuff going on there. But the same thing is where if you're not going to go to a farm or you're not going to travel, all the more, and you don't want to go to the grocery store, we're going to see these little farms pop up. The trend, especially as generations go on. This is one of those events that has a lasting impact on how we move as a society, right? Into the future or as humanity. So it's pretty cool to be a part of, but it's a little scary at the same time, obviously. So
true.
So, I mean, what other ambitions do you have? I know you're the entrepreneur, and we've talked a lot about the real estate stuff and what's going on there. And, I mean, are you thinking there may be like a tattered brand or a tattered produce that may come out of these farms one day as another opportunity to help raise money for these, to sell stuff? I mean, how do you generate revenue, not just by getting donations, but through other avenues to support your business with the model that you have?
So it's funny you say that, because you're exactly right. We will have to come up with money-generating avenues. And so we will have Tattered Beans that will come back online once the farm opens up, as well as, much like yourself being in the food industry, I've made a thing or two of recipes that have done pretty well in restaurants that I've used to own. And so we might rebottle stuff to sell, maybe a spaghetti sauce or, meatballs, that can be shipped all over the country. So we're going to have to think, besides events, like you said, what other type of merchandise will we be able to capitalize on to help fund the farm itself?
Well, and since you're in both of those things, if you ever get into sauces or meatballs or burgers, or that's something you're in, I will donate our R&D for you guys on our end to help you guys get it off the ground, even if you use us to produce it or not. So,
thank you.
We'll consider an opportunity there and work with your farm, and maybe there's an opportunity for us to look at how down the road we can actually help procure stuff and stuff like that as you guys grow. I mean, our volume's enormous, but we look for local sustainable causes that do the right thing. So,
thank you. That's greatly appreciated.
Yeah, as food service partners, I usually don't say anything about them online because I want it to be about you guys, but I think it's the right thing to do, and I can donate time and effort and skills and how to get things commercialized for sure to help out. If there's something similar to Tattered Beans, maybe it's tattered pasta sauces or something, I don't know, but yeah. I'll be willing to help in any way we could with donating our time and our expertise and ingredients and batches and stuff like that to help get it off the ground. So,
well, thank you.
Yeah, so
appreciate that.
Since that's what we do.
It's been a incredible learning experience, and that's what I love, at least from an entrepreneur, is getting into things that I've completely never done before, and doing all the research and having to teach yourself how to make it work. From this instance, it's, how to raise money, how does a farm operate, how does the barns need to be laid out, how big do the stalls need to be?
Yeah.
What type of troughs are there? What, the cleanup for the cows, what type of sanitation needs to be done, what equipment. And so once you really sit down and do all that research, that's the exciting part, is when you get done and you stand back and you're just like, I took something from zero and built it with not a clue. And I think that's the problem with so many young entrepreneurs, the ones that I talk to or mentor, is that they just are so scared and they want to try to get into something that they have knowledge about, but maybe that market is already saturated. And I'm like, so what? You're just going to sell another T-shirt online? Come on, you got to think outside the box. Like, do something that other people aren't doing, or take something and make it better. Like, think, just do some research. Think about the product. Think about what goes into what that person is doing and how you can make it better, and run with it. And that's why they call most entrepreneurs 1%ers, because, it's 1% of people that have that mindset to just be able to just say, screw it, I'm going to do it. Because the other people just are so scared. They don't want to fail. They're afraid of what people are going to think of them. I mean, your biggest and most successful ones, they could care less. Yeah.
Well, the interesting part about it too is that the ones that, and with the other part that's the differentiator is that you're, as a true entrepreneur, you're constantly chasing a moving target, knowing that you'll never hit it.
Yep.
It's really what it is, and you make money along the way, but your business, you got to keep growing. I mean, we've seen it. I mean, think about Apple. If you want to, anyone's in the audience that's wanted me to take it to an extreme, they have to, they literally release a phone like every 2 years or some ridiculous. Maybe it's every year, just to try to stay ahead of competition. That's technology. That's not the same thing. We're talking about food and farms and other things, but you still have to be pivoting. We took a very huge pivot as a company, like I said, 6 months ago, in terms of what we saw the trends coming in home delivery food. Seriously, people are not going out with the grocery stores, and people want meals at home, and they still want the same convenience of a restaurant or ease of a restaurant, but they don't want to go out to do it. So, and if they don't want to go all the time, they're trying to get the thing at home and spend more time with their family. It's particularly in the United States, but our values have readjusted a little bit, and as a society, morally and ethically, I think we're starting to care a little bit more, which I think is a good thing, but care a little more about doing the right thing, not trying to convince everyone we care by doing the wrong thing, because we believe it's right. I think people are adjusting slowly, but we've all got to stand up and have a voice, right? I think that's what we're also talking about, but empowering people also means healing people, which is what you're doing on the farm, and that's leadership too. I don't know if you agree with this, Jake, but I think a lot of leadership is really connecting on those deep levels, and finding that similarity. I mean, I know you're a veteran, so you probably know this better than I do, but it's amazing what can happen when you go through hardship together. And that's what we're going through right now, guys, is how do we all come together and do something awesome right now. And I have the same thing with kids. I'm like, and young entrepreneurs, I'm like, seriously, when we stopped encouraging kids to go outside and build tree houses because we were afraid they were going to break an arm, or we didn't want them on the trampoline because they were going to hurt themselves, we did a disservice. Seriously, on a creative level, we did a disservice. So, and I understand everyone's like, well, look at them, they're on their phones, and that's, yes, that's one form of creativity, but it's not knowing how to solve a problem over like a long-term period of time. And it's very instant problems. Okay, I've solved a problem, very gratifying, but not understanding the gratification of a long-term plan or a long-term goal, or it's very interesting. But it's because we didn't, it's like a video game. You play it, you win, it's over. If I'm building a tree for it, I got to build that thing for months, man, because I don't know what the hell I'm doing as a kid. So
well, exactly,
that's a difference
and that gives
I'm
you
talking
time,
about.
And doing those type of projects gives you time with someone else special, whether it's your friends, whether it's your dad, your mom, maybe a brother and sister, maybe it's your cousins. It just gives you time together, accomplishing something. And comparative to, sure, don't get me wrong, I sit on, TikTok and laugh at videos and all that too, just like anyone else. But, I would much rather be outside doing something like that with, my grandson or son-in-law or daughters or wife or something like that. I mean, you can always find cool things to do other than being online. And, you brought something up. What scares me is that we did have to adapt to delivery online, not eating in restaurants, ordering it out and stuff. And I sit there and think, and this is more of the cynical side of me, is how bad is that?
Yep.
Because to me, it just keeps us inside even more.
Wow, yeah.
You're not even going to the store anymore. You're just going online and purchasing it, which then means the store has the capability of laying off some people that they wouldn't need because now it's, or maybe it shifts to having more delivery people. And, so I understand times change and technology helps with those things, but it also shows that how lazy as a society we are.
Yes. And I think one of the things we don't realize is we did something so abruptly and so quickly. We basically silently dropped a pebble in the middle of a glass lake, and we've caused this ripple effect that is maybe over the long term going to ripple effect and cause more lives than economically through starvation and missed opportunity and bad stuff that we're going to create by destroying economies. So we just got to be careful. That's my thing. I just am I'm cynical as well. I'm just what is the real goal here? And how long is the impact going to be? And what I would call, we're not going out. We're not being creative. We're not being adventurous. We're not pushing our businesses. We're hibernating. We're standing still. And guess what? If you stand still, you actually go backwards, guys, in the world. And that's, if anyone studies any history, we know that when things like this happen, a plague, a bubonic plague, the world slips into a dark age, possibly for centuries. Now, hopefully with technology, we don't have to do that stuff, but we've got to face realistically, historically, what has happened in history repeating itself. There's a reason it's called the Renaissance Enlightenment, because society finally got out of this standing still. And you can argue different governments and all that all day long. I agree with you. But it has to do with the way humanity reacts to extreme things. And in war, for example, it's an extreme thing, but it's a very clear beginning and ending. With COVID, we don't know when it's going to end or how it started or what the territory is or what we're really fighting over or how we really control it, or even if we're doing the right thing. We don't know who's winning or who's losing. There's no way to measure it. And so, but there is something we are measuring, and that's the damage we're doing to ourselves and each other and stuff by not, we've got to move. I don't care whether it's just exercising. I don't care whether it's doing what you're doing or we figure out better ways to get masks, but we've got to figure out ways to move forward, guys, as a society, I think this COVID thing's around a long time to stay. I don't think there's going to be a magical election in the United States and everything's going to magically get better. If there's no magic pill now, there's not going to be a magic pill 3 months from now. It's just not going to be there. And if it does happen, I will be extremely skeptical however that happened. So, and the timing of it, but I don't know.
That's definitely a scary part because they're, unfortunately, with us just being peons, we don't have the ability to have a crystal ball to see, what the governments around the world have settled in for us. We just unfortunately just have to sort of go along with what we're told in a certain fashion. Not maybe completely, but we do have to I'd like to think that the scientists have our best interest at heart and are telling the truth. You know, because I know my mother is, 77, I believe, and I certainly wouldn't want her to get sick from COVID, as well as, I've had cancer previously, and I'd want to, make sure that I'm being given the right information to make sure that I can collectively make a decision myself on what I would want to do in handling things for my own personal health.
No, and I agree. My parents are older as well, and I think, geez, I don't know. I want to be safe, and so I'm not encouraging anyone not to be safe, but I am encouraging everyone. We really have to figure out how to keep creativity and move forward and move our business forward. Guys, now's the time to make the changes you've always want to change. Take a step back, change your menu, change your concept, change your business model. I don't know, something. So,
yeah, at least from your standpoint, do you see yourself as a new normal, or do you see yourself going back to the way things were?
I never go back. Like, I figured, like, this is just another one of those things where life changed, and you just, like, it's not, like, you're not the same person anymore,
Yep.
Like, you have a really good pet that passes away, or a really good friend that passed away, prematurely. Like, those things in your life, it's an abrupt change, and you're never the same, but they happen. There's nothing you can do about it. And
yep.
The new norms are always, for me, an opportunity to explore who I am or see how I've changed, and then find opportunity in it, because different interests come out of events like that, So,
yeah.
COVID, and, I've always been fairly health conscious. I'm in the health food business, but it really gave me time to really dive into and understand, what food really comes from, and what we need to be doing as a company to stay ahead of where food's going, and what does it really mean to have a health food. And we've always talked about nutrition and the density that needs to happen, and what happens, with fruits and vegetables when they're picked, and how they start depreciating nutritionally as well. But it's just, cool things that have come. And, I think all of it, if we really look at it as an opportunity to do something better, or be better people, or be better parts of the world through the skills that we have, through whatever our superpower is, for lack of a better term. Mine just happens to be food. I wish it was soccer, like superpower, but food was what God gave me to work with. So, but it's my superpower. So what can I do to better the world now that COVID-19 happens? How can I make sure people are healthier? How can I encourage them to eat healthier? How can I clean the food better? How can I make sure it's coming from better sources, better vaccines, or whatever? I just be a better steward of the world, and a better steward of people and the farms and the communities that we're involved in. And hey, like, it's not really that hard. It's just making a decision. And at first it may be like, oh my gosh, it seems so big and so hard. It's probably hard. May seem hard, but actually when you're doing it, it's kind of fun because it's something different, So went on a tangent there, but I think there's a lot of new opportunities out there, and I agree with you. Don't sell another T-shirt. Find something that makes you different.
Exactly. Listen, the way my partners and I do our land deals, there's literally no one doing it like us. We know it. We've researched it. We tested the model out, and it's working beautifully for us. And so, if you don't take the time to figure out how things operate as an entrepreneur and see how to better your product compared to what's already out there, what are you an entrepreneur for?
Yeah.
Like, what, you just want to use the word entrepreneur? And again, like I said, you're going to, make another T-shirt, or, sell, try to be Instagram famous. Like, you have to come up with a concept, an idea that is so different that it just turns an industry upside down, and people are scared to take that shot and they question themselves halfway through a process. My partners and I are designing something right now that is literally going to just, like I just said, it's going to just completely turn an industry upside down. And I sit there and have to think, when I do this, I'm going to piss off 1.5 million people, like almost instantly. Yeah. The minute it launches, I am going to be the brunt of every mad individual that's in that particular industry. But then you start breaking down the percentages and say, if you really think about it, less than 10% will truly hate me because they just don't understand that we're making the industry better, and that once they understand it and come over, then they will get it. But you're never going to be liked by 100% of anybody, so you can't base your business model around that. And unfortunately, too many people try.
It's unbelievable. Really.
It really is. I mean, I talk to so many young entrepreneurs, and the thing is I'm not one of these entrepreneurs that, are trying to, peddle a book or, hey, do a $39.95 class with me and I'm going to teach you Now, I give all my ideas and concepts away for free. People say I'm stupid for it, but I make enough money doing other things that I don't need to take money from a small young entrepreneur to give them information. Like, bro, be a good person. But I get it that other people are very successful within their trade, and then they're also a public speaker or they do these online courses. That's just not my style. It's just, I don't hate them for that. They're, good people, but we just think different.
Yeah, it's and I'm there with you. I'm like, even if I gave it away, I don't think anyone would do it the way I do it anyway. So there's that. Yep. I'm a very passionate person, so there's that whole other level of, I think sometimes people think I'm crazy or that I'm just some wildly uncontrollable human being because my emotions, but I'm very passionate about what I do.
I was going to say, you're just crazy equals passion.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's, but that's the thing, there's got to be a drive in there. And, a lot of people that have come to me or wanted to work with me or wanted to partner with me, you find out pretty quickly if you have that little drive or that thing, it's almost like I would say it's part stupid, because it's like no matter how many times or how hard you get knocked down in life, you bounce right back up without even thinking about it. Okay, well, that didn't work. Let me try this. So it's almost like a reflex. Like, I don't know any different. So it's a pretty cool experience. But, so while I have you on the phone, how do you see this growing with your partners? You talked about disrupting things. Is that something you feel that is going to lead Tattered Lives Farms into the future also, is give you the ability to put that vision into place? The only reason I ask is because, ladies and gentlemen, it takes profitable businesses and people to fund and create creative ways to do nonprofits as well, similar to what Jake's doing. So I think that's important to connect, that you actually have to have a real profitable business to support what you're trying to do in your community.
Oh, absolutely. You hit it right on the head. I think, from my standpoint, you get to a certain level of life, and when you can truly give back because financially you have made it, then that's where we're at now with my partners and I. And again, they signed on because they believe in the mission. And that's important. To have, ride or die partners like that, because a lot don't. And so, they're in things all by themselves and trying to navigate this. And with me, I have two partners that just believe in the concept, believe in the mission, and are there to help in any way that they can. And so that's important. And so a lot of people want to help, but they don't know where to start. And so much like this with Tattered Lives Farms, like I've never done a 501c3. So I had to go out and educate myself. And what young entrepreneurs don't understand is most people love to talk about their business or give information of knowledge they have. So you just have to ask. And that's what I did. I found other nonprofits that were similar that I wouldn't be competing against and just ask questions. And they filled my brain with tons of knowledge. And then it was going out and educating myself even more on the process. And then the last piece of the puzzle is the marketing side of it. So I know how to market a for-profit business. And so everyone's just like, listen, nonprofit is just sort of the same thought process. Like you have to market the same. In some cases, you aren't necessarily selling a product, but you're just asking for a donation. And so it's just how you market yourself to get that donation compared to them giving you, a $10 donation instead of, going to Starbucks that day.
Yeah. And so, I mean, with that in mind, I mean, you've sort of just entered the market the same way then. I mean, I didn't know exactly what Tattered Lives Farm was, but I saw the way you marketed and it created my interest. And obviously then I looked into it and then I'm like, we should do a podcast. But it's, but to your point, I think you're right. It's the same thing. It's just a matter of how the transaction actually looks accounting wise, really. Everything else stays kind of the same, and you're asking for a donation instead of a purchase. So
exactly, and again, no different than a for-profit business.
Yeah.
You have to be able to resonate your product, or in this case, our nonprofit, to a particular person. Yeah. Whether they're going to eat at your restaurant, play golf at your golf course, or buy your T-shirt, your product has to resonate with them for them to spend their hard-earned money. My nonprofit has to resonate with someone for them to open up their credit card to give me a donation. And so we have to hit them from every angle, whether it's from the trauma standpoint, whether they like animals, whether it's the being able to come sit at the farm. We have to bombard them from all different sides, no different than, a manufacturer of clothing has to be able to bombard them with, how this shoe bends, how it, the traction is, how it feels on your foot, all the different colors. It's the exact same concept. It's just instead of someone spending money for the shoe, they're, giving me $10 as a donation when they come into the farm to go sit in the pasture, and read a book.
Yeah, it's I love it. Love it. So thank you, Jake, for joining us today, and I appreciate you getting on, and I apologize about yesterday and not responding, so I'm glad we were able to get on today.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So thank you.
Listen, Justin, I appreciate you having us on. You can find us at tatteredlivesfarm.org. Any donations help. We have a GoFundMe page, Tattered Lives Farm. You can donate there. Maybe you have products that that you could help. Maybe you have heavy equipment or want to come down and help when we start construction. So certainly tatteredlivesfarm.org. Go to the contact page. Contact us if you want to help in any way. We would love it.
Awesome. That's a fun project. I'm interested. I can't wait to hear how it goes. We'll have to get you back on and once everything's up and running in a year and see how it all went. And God, I can't wait to hear the stories too. There's going to be some interesting stories there, I'm sure, and lessons learned.